two areas that I look at that Chelsea team and I just think they fall short a little bit.
You can see with lots of these moves that they're just going to blow up at the end of the window.
I just wonder if they're both playing a bit of chicken and waiting to see who's going to buckle first.
The way I described them at the time was sort of like Manchester City on acid in the final third.
And I'm actually surprised that nobody's gone in for him already.
If he's going to leave, the money needs to be severe.
Feels like he's the first manager that's pushed back against this ownership a little bit.
Of course he's going to say that, but we can tell you at Sunsport that there's a little bit more to this story. Hello and welcome to Transfers Exposed. I'm Will Pugh and alongside me is football broadcaster Harry Symeou. Harry, great to see you again, mate, as always.
Great to be back, mate. And of course, this is your exclusive press pass to the hottest transfer story straight from the Sunsport newsroom.
Absolutely, mate. We're here every Tuesday and Friday until the transfer window slams shut on September the 1st, as it always does, covering all the biggest and best stories, all the facts and figures from across England and Europe.
And on this video, we're going to be talking Chelsea. Have they identified the Levi Colwill replacement? And we're going to discuss why there's been no movement on Alejandro Garnacho or Xavi Simons.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, let's get straight into it. Chelsea, obviously, to be fair, quite fortunate to pick up a point in the opening game of the season, that 0-0 draw against Crystal Palace at home. One of the weirdest rules in football ever.
Did you know it existed? Because I didn't.
Listen, we're here to talk about transfers, mate. And Levi Colwill, obviously, Chelsea sort of like massive blow losing Levi Colwill earlier this month, that ACL injury in pre-season training. He last season, as is the way with modern football these days, he had the most touches of anyone for Chelsea last season. Lots of their play goes through him, especially with those killer direct balls up the pitch. He's such a key cog in that machine. And Josh Achampong come on and played very well against Crystal Palace, but the sense being that, you know, where they want to get to this season, Chelsea's not quite at the level. But and the man they've identified is Piero Hincapié at Bayer Leverkusen, centre back, £52 million release clause is the details. Whether or not Chelsea are sort of in a position to pay that sort of money, we're not sure at this stage. It will obviously rely on a lot of outgoings. We're going to talk about Xavi Simons, like you mentioned. Ecuadorian, handsome chap in he as well, to be fair to him. But, you know, Bayer Leverkusen have been doing some really good things the past few seasons. Very important for Chelsea to replace Colwill, isn't it? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I would have made the argument that even pre the Colwill injury that they were a little bit short at centre-half in terms of, you know, where they want to be and the kind of depth that's required to do that. They're in the Champions League as well, which is a bigger format than it's ever been, more games, etc., etc. Colwill, as you mentioned, really good on the ball, great at being part of Chelsea's build-up. That's why he has so many touches. But I think Hincapie can be that as well. I think he is very much a modern-day type centre-half. He's young enough still for a club, I think, to believe that a hefty investment is worthwhile. In terms of his technical qualities, he's good on the ball, can bring the ball out of the back line comfortably, can break lines with his passing. I think he'd be a really good sign. And I'm actually surprised that nobody's gone in for him already. He's been on the radar for a good few seasons now. And I think he'd be a good fit for Chelsea.
Yeah, 23 years of age, contract expires in 4 years' time. So lots of time to run on his Leverkusen contract. They've obviously on to a good thing, but they have lost some big players this window. Frimpong, Florian Wirtz, obviously. Jonathan Tah left for Bayern Munich as well. So Bayer Leverkusen, are very much in a position where if he is going to leave as well, particularly with Tah going at centre-back, if he's going to leave, the money needs to be severe, and they're not in a position where they have to sell, are they?
No, they're not, because as you mentioned, they've made many sales over the last few years. Obviously, Granit Xhaka's left from there as well. You always got the feeling that when Xabi Alonso sort of signalled, or it became clear that he was going to leave at the end of that season, that team was going to get broken up, and it has. And it's you know, you've seen a lot of players like Wirtz, like Frimpong, who I'd imagine have probably put moves in place way ahead of time and were really confident and comfortable with where they were going to end up before those transfers materialised. And Bayer Leverkusen are being pulled apart, but they're not a huge club. I mean, they're a big club, but in terms of the German sort of footballing ecosystem. They're not a Bayern Munich or a Borussia Dortmund even. So they're always going to have this problem, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a shame, really, isn't it? I mean, I was fortunate enough, sort of fortunate and unfortunate enough, to see that team in the flesh twice during that unbeaten season in the Europa League when they played West Ham. I went to both legs out to Germany. And it's so funny you say that, because you hear Leverkusen, you think, oh, big name, big team in Germany. You go to the ground, amazing ground to watch football in, like the atmosphere is brilliant, but it's not massive. And you sort of, but honestly, seeing them in the flesh, the way I described them at the time, and that's why I was so excited to see Florian Wirtz play in the Premier League this season. The way I described them at the time was sort of like Manchester City, but like on acid in the final third, basically, because they were really structured and really like, it was like so fluid to watch in the build-up. And then all of a sudden it got into the final third and it was just like chaos. But Florian Wirtz was like the sort of driver of the whole thing. But it was like, it looked chaotic. But you know when Man City are a lot more methodical? Yeah. It was kind of like that. But it all came from the back. Jonathan Tah was sort of imperious at the time. But you're right, it is a shame. But they've got to manage it, right? You see the same thing with Bournemouth this season and Brentford as well. You can't just hemorrhage all of your best players in one window, can you? Bournemouth done well to hold on to Semenyo, obviously scored on the opening day at Anfield. I think Bayer Leverkusen will be in that position, or they are in that position, where they're like, look, the money will have to be severe, but £52 million release clause. Chelsea have obviously got some outgoings they need to focus on, which we'll focus on in a minute. If they're talking, 40 million-ish, we'll probably get them Garnacho. It's more likely to be 60 for Xavi Simons. Given what's happened to Colwill, if they are in a position, Chelsea, where they can only do one of those deals, would you be prioritising this one?
I think I would. Because I think centre-back and the goalkeeping position are the two areas that I look at that Chelsea team and I just think they fall short a little bit. Yep. And I would have said that even if Levi Colwill was fit. Not because I don't rate the player. I don't think he's top tier. I think he's just in that bracket below. Yeah, I'm not sure he's at that level, and I'm not sure about the idea of him and Chalobah being a partnership that could propel Chelsea up to where they want to be. So
loads of fantasy managers disappointed because Tosin didn't play at the weekend with that injury as well.
There you go.
Yeah, go on.
But like with all of those guys, with Chalobah, with Tosin, with Colwill, I think they've got a decent group of centre-backs, but I don't think they have that real standout centre-back that's going to lead their defence and take them to where they want to be. So if I were Chelsea, I'd have been looking at this type of business anyway.
Are you saying then, rather than we're talking about him as a replacement, are you sort of almost suggesting maybe he's an upgrade on Colwill?
I think he has the potential to be. I think the fact that Colwill is sort of homegrown and knows Chelsea inside out, people will always put that in his column as a kind of advantage and something that makes him stand out from the rest. But I think talent-wise, I don't think there's much between them. No. I would argue that Hincapie's maybe got a higher ceiling than Levi Colwill. So if I'm Chelsea, I'm doing this business anyway. It wouldn't be a knee-jerk bit of business for me.
I see what you mean. Yeah. I mean, bold statement, to be fair, Harry. I mean, lots of Chelsea fans are, kind of understandably tipping him to be, like Chelsea captain for many years to come.
I think a lot of that is to do with the homegrown thing, though. I think as a fan base, you're always going to lean towards those homegrown players. Like if I use Arsenal as an example, you saw Arsenal at the weekend. Martinelli was poor, Saka was poor, but Saka's an Arsenal man through and through, brought up at Arsenal, and he's protected a little bit in terms of the analysis and the fallout. I know generally he's a great player, and that plays into it as well, but I do think homegrown players get that protection a little bit. Yeah,
well, obviously all the Arsenal fans at the moment are calling for a West Ham Academy product to be your captain, aren't they? So some proper steel and leadership
Tony Adams
from the east side of London. We'll move on to Simons and Garnacho in a bit. Hincapie, 46 Ecuador caps at the age of just 23. Now, it's sort of easy for fans to go, it's only Ecuador. Sorry, but at the age of 23, to nearly have hit a half century of caps for your country is an outstanding achievement, is it not? Certainly more than Colwill. But Chelsea and Maresca in particular, they like the South American contingent, don't they? Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, of course, Estevao, who sort of looks really promising. Chelsea fans are absolutely overcome with excitement about him. Who else we got? Andre Santos, Aaron Anselmino, Kendry Paez. like they're not. I know most clubs these days at the very highest level, I've got a reasonable contingent of South Americans. Arsenal, of course, couple starting in the starting lineup most weeks with Martinelli and Gabriel. But you do sense that sort of one of the things that Maresca's done is he's managed to do a really good job of work, sort of gelling these players in a team or a squad which is totally bloated, lots of egos in there, albeit they're younger players. And from everyone probably 6 months ago, certainly going, God, blimey, what a minging job that is, especially after, what the job Graham Potter did there in difficult circumstances, bringing these sort of fiery characters together. He's done a great job at that.
Yeah, he has. And he's built a proper team, and he's built a unity at Chelsea that I wasn't sure could ever exist given the bloated squad of players. But what I like about what Maresca's done is he came in and he went, I'm working with these players. Whether you like it or not, I don't really care. Yeah. If you've hired me to do this job, you're going to let me do the job my way. And it feels like he's the first manager that's pushed back against this ownership a little bit. Yeah. Yes, the club are going to go out and do bits of business that they feel are right because they've got a specific model that they're operating under. And who can knock it? They're bringing in players and flipping them for incredible amounts of money. And they're doing it over and over again. And that is allowing them to go out and get the players that Maresca wants. Yeah. I think he wants Hincapie. I think he would fit into his team nicely. You mentioned that South American element. There's something about them. They've got that bit of extra fire. And playing for Ecuador, people would turn their noses up at it and say it's just Ecuador. But I don't think there's a sort of continent where there's more pressure in terms of the football and the passion and everything around it. So I think he's perfect for the Premier League. I think he'd be a great fit.
You know what they do always seem to have, Harry, is neck tattoos.
Yeah. It's a good point.
They always seem to have neck tattoos, but Hincapie one of those as well. Look, one thing I do want to talk about, because there's lots of Chelsea fans at the moment, Harry, asking what's going on with Xavi Simons and Alejandro Garnacho. We've been reporting these two stories on Transfers Exposed for some time now. James Hurley, our producer, Chelsea fan, of course, across all of these things, was one of the first to sort of highlight the Xavi Simons story coming out. Did some digging of our own, obviously, at Sun Sport. And at first, there was lots of rumours sort of in the wider football industry. Oh, it's just agent chat. He's just trying to drum up some interest, maybe get a new deal, blah, blah, blah. And then, like I say, did some digging of our own. Obviously, some real credence in the story. Talks have been ongoing for some time. In personal terms, not said to be an issue. £60 million is RB Leipzig's valuation of the player. Some sort of contrasting reports about whether or not there's an official release clause or not. Chelsea did float the idea to Leipzig that perhaps they could take Christopher Nkunku back. He's been a bit unlucky with the injuries, have sort of thwarted his progress at Chelsea. There are some other clubs interested in him as well. Bayern Munich more recently because Jamal Musiala got that injury. Chelsea are definitely looking to sell Nkunku. Around 35 to 40 million pounds should do it. But there are lots of questions about what's going on with Xavi Simons. Now, Dan King writes in today's paper, this is Tuesday, writing in today's Sun, Xavi may stay put. Chelsea target Xavi Simons has been warned he could end up staying at RB Leipzig. The Blues are yet to make a formal offer for Simons, who's rejected by Munich, preferring to go to Stamford Bridge. Garnacho also likes the idea of a move to Chelsea, so it's kind of a bit squeaky bum time in limbo for both of those players at the moment. But Leipzig's sporting director, Marcel Schaefer, has come out and said, look, a transfer will only happen if it makes sporting and financial sense for the club. If that isn't the case, Xavi will continue to be an RB Leipzig player next year. What else is he going to say, right? Of course he's going to say that. But we can tell you at Sunsport that there's a little bit more to this story. Basically, Chelsea, as we've been reporting for some time, need to sell players, and that's not just we could do with getting some off the books for either the wages or the financial purposes. They were, of course, fined £27 million in July by UEFA for a breach of the football earning and squad cost rules, which limits clubs operating in European competition to spending 80% of their revenue on player costs, right? Villa also fell foul of the same rules, I think potentially PSG. Now, So I think it's easy for Chelsea fans to look at this and go, oh, come on, we've got to do one of these deals because they don't want to get dragged into a similar situation as we've seen Barcelona in the past few seasons with having absolute nightmares registering new signings that they make. Chelsea are in a position now where they simply have to get some of these players off the book and get some of the money in because they need to demonstrate to UEFA, lest they risk more punishments, that they have made some cost-saving measures against their player costs. I think it's easy, isn't it, for fans these days to just assume that clubs use PSR as a bit of an excuse.
Yeah.
But the Xavi Simons deal seems to be the preferred one now. Where that leaves Alejandro Garnacho, I don't know. But it's quite a job of work these days, isn't it, for fans to have to keep up with where their club sit in the PSR rankings and table before they can do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't speak for every football fan, but I'm definitely not a financial expert. So I find it difficult sometimes to keep across this, to understand it. You've got the Premier League's rules and regulations that differ to UEFA's. And if you're participating in both those competitions, then, it might look from a Premier League perspective that you've got loads of headroom. But actually from the UEFA side of things, you don't. And we're seeing that all the time. On Xavi Simons, as a wider, broader point, I think RB Leipzig have been incredibly difficult to deal with this summer.
Right.
They've got valuations in mind for some of their players. I think some of those valuations are overblown. I think
you're talking about Šeško?
Šeško was one of them for sure.
Yeah.
That's ultimately why Arsenal walked away.
Yeah, of course.
Man United were willing to go that extra mile and get that deal done. But I thought throughout the entire process, RB Leipzig were very stubborn, had a price in mind and they weren't going to budge on that. I feel that's probably the same case with Xavi Simons now. So they've got previous and they've got form for it. And if Chelsea want him, they're going to have to go and meet RB Leipzig's valuation. I can't see this being done at significantly less than that £60 million price point. And that might put Chelsea off in the end. I think with the Garnacho thing, you're kind of looking at it and you're going, RB Leipzig and Man United are not in the same position.
No.
RB Leipzig would happily keep a hold of him because they've made significant sales already. Whereas for Man United, who probably still want to do more in the transfer window, they need to get Garnacho out. There's a complete breakdown in the relationship. And I just wonder if Chelsea are looking at this and going, if we wait, if Man United are looking at, Chelsea and Man United in terms of that conversation, I just wonder if they're both playing a bit of chicken and waiting to see who's going to buckle first towards the kind of back end of the window.
Yeah, you can see with lots of these moves, can't you, that they're just going to blow up at the end of the window because it will be everyone just sort of like load of brinkmanship for as long as they can. And then it will get to the stage where clubs not panic, but they're like, right, we need to make this sale. Or there will be clubs who go, we need to sign someone in that position. But I am quite interested because for a long time it seemed like, although Garnacho wanted it and it would cost less money for Chelsea to get the deal done, wages I think are probably going to be similar for both. I don't think there's going to be a huge disparity between what Garnacho and Simons would demand at Stamford Bridge. But you do feel with this Hincapie story as well now, and as you've just said, you feel it would be a priority. I think lots of Chelsea fans kind of in the same position. It's all very well having these, smorgasbord of attacking options if you're letting goals in or looking a bit weak at the back, particularly as so much of Chelsea's play from a tactical point of view, as I've learnt off of Dean Scoggins on Tactics Exposed last season, which is back on Sunsport's YouTube channel, we know how important that Chelsea's sort of play is from building out from the back. The amount of direct balls that come from Colwill straight down the middle to was Jackson last season. You expect it to be Delap and Pedro, of course, this time round. It's a vitally important position, and that could leave Chelsea in a position, whatever happens, they'll need to make some sales anyway, as we've covered. But it could leave them in a position where they go, you know what, actually, we do need to prioritise a defender now. Therefore, although Simons would be nice, more versatile, arguably more of a Maresca type player than Garnacho, actually, if we can get that done for 40 million quid, we'll do that instead. Yeah, for sure. Priorities change, don't they? You go into the window with a plan, but you have to react to the cards that you're dealt with. And unfortunately for Chelsea, they've lost a really key player for a long period of time. It's not like Colwill's out for a month and you're looking at it and you can go and we can get by. They've got a big problem there. I would argue, as I said, that they had a bit of a shortfall there anyway. So I think that the Hincapie thing needs to be the priority. And maybe it is going to come down to the price point when Chelsea are deciding whether it's Simons or Garnacho before the end of the window. Thank you very much for watching and listening to this episode of Transfers Exposed. As Harry just said, it's set to be a really exciting end to this transfer window with loads of deals, no doubt going to get over the line. So make sure you are tuning in to Transfers Exposed every Tuesday and Friday, and make sure you're subscribed to the Sunsport YouTube channel so you never miss an episode.